Hi, welcome to LIFFFT's series on customer development. Today, we'll be talking about customer interviews and why they're so important. A lot of times, we'll be talking and teaching about customer interviews, and someone will raise their hand and they'll say, it feels like it'll take a really long time to interview 100 people or 500 people. And I love that question, because yes, it will take a long time. But you know what takes longer? Spending 2 or 3 years trying to start this business or trying to build this product to find out that no one wants it. And that's also a lot more expensive. And so one of the key reasons it's so important is it's validating your assumptions. So as we'll talk about later, and as you may already know about, the business model canvas separates a business into 9 key areas where you list all of your assumptions under them. And customer interviews are how you validate those assumptions. So one of my favorite stories about why you should always validate your assumptions is actually from a large appliance manufacturer, who I'm not going to name. I was talking to one of their employees after Startup Weekend, and he was so thrilled about everything he learned and to bring it back to his job at the appliance manufacturer, because he had just wrapped up a 3-year, $50 million project. And when I say wrapped up, I mean they canceled it. And they canceled it because it had something to do with like attaching dumb appliances to the smart grid and reading something about their power measurements and their power levels. And so they had this great idea, and they spent 3 years and $50 million building it. And at the end, they went over to their customers, who were the utility companies, and they're like, look at this awesome thing we built. Don't you want to buy this? And they're like, no, not interested, not even remotely interested. Like, get out of our office. And they went to like 50 different utility companies, and none of them wanted it. And he realized if he had spent 2 months talking to those utility companies before they had spent 3 years building their product, not only would he have saved like $49 million and 2.5 years of his life, but they could have actually built something the utility companies did want. And so that's why validating your assumptions before you start building is so important. The next step is building the rightest thing. So often, people will build the right thing. They'll find a problem, whether it's through customer development or just by luck, which does happen sometimes, and they will build a product that solves that problem. And that's great. Now, that's great. But did you build the rightest thing? Did you build the best product you could have built? Did you try to tackle the best problem you could have tackled? I think BlackBerry versus iPhone is a great example of that. You know, RIM, Research in Motion, who made the BlackBerry, thought that business email is like the most important problem that a phone like that could solve. And the iPhone and Apple were like, I think there are bigger problems. And, well, I'll let history speak, but one of them was right. And so Apple figured out that there were a bunch more, much bigger problems than just business email that could be solved with a smartphone. And then they crushed BlackBerry. Building customer empathy is another one. When you sit down and you talk to someone, and you get them telling stories, and you get them talking about their problems, a lot of times they really unload on you. No one ever asks them like what really bothers them, what keeps them up at night, what things just make them really angry or upset. And if you let them start talking about that, they'll just go off, and they'll tell you so much more than you thought they ever would have. And when you do that, when you share that experience with someone, you start to build a level of empathy with them. And you start to really, even if you don't have that problem, even if you are not your customer, you can empathize with them, and you can start to really understand their feelings about that problem. And so when you're sitting there as a developer and you're coding, and you've got to ship soon, and there's this bug, and you're like, I don't know, like, whatever, we'll fix the bug in the next release. And then you look down at your desk, and there's a picture of Janet. And Janet's not some persona that you created. Janet is a person that you talked to at the mall. And you sat down, you bought her coffee, and you had a half-an-hour-long conversation about how she deals with her kids and how she finds a nanny and a babysitter. And you realize that, like, if I ship this product, if I ship this release with this bug in it, it's going to make Janet's life miserable. The app is going to crash all the time. It's going to send her bad nannies or whatever. And you start to feel bad about shipping a bad product. And then you're like, you know what, we're going to fix this bug before we launch, before we release. And then you fix it, and then Janet's life is great. And you feel good about that. The other important thing to note is that empathy is non-transferable. I can't have the marketing team go out and talk to a bunch of people and then come back and tell me what they thought. I mean, you can do that, and you can learn from that, but you don't build that sense of empathy, right? Then it's just some person the marketing team talked to is going to have this problem with my software. That's not nearly as powerful as Janet, who I talked to for a half an hour and bought coffee, right? The last thing is understanding pricing. Pricing is scary, right? Like if I say, this costs $5 a month, but people were willing to pay $25 a month, I'm leaving a huge amount of money on the table, especially once you get to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of users. But what if people were only willing to pay $5 a month and you try to charge 15 or 20? Then no one picks it up, no one adopts it, and your company fails or the product fails. So pricing is very scary, but the more you talk to people and the more you empathize with them and the more you understand and you feel their pain and their problems, the more comfortable you'll be pricing and the more comfortable you'll be charging for that product because you know how much relief it's going to bring them. You know how much it's going to solve their problem. A great story of this is we were working with a startup and they're working in kind of the real estate space. And they're building up a product and they're talking to real estate brokers. And one of the real estate brokers was like, dude, like, I don't understand why I'd pay you for this product. It's like, I could hire a software developer for $100,000 a year and he could build this for me in 18 months. He would pay someone $150,000 to build this over the course of 18 months. And so the startup that we're helping was like, yeah, I mean, what if we only charge $10,000 a month, right? Like that's 120, or what if they only charge $5,000 a month? Let's just do that math better. What if they only charge $5,000 a month? Over the course of 18 months, that's only $90,000. That's a whole lot less money. And so that real estate broker is like, actually, that sounds pretty good. I can save money, and I don't have to manage this developer. And I know that I'm getting a quality product because there's a team of people behind it, not just one guy. And so they were now able to charge $5,000 a month, where before they were thinking about charging like $100 a month. And so because this guy was like, why would I pay a software developer $100,000 a year? It gave them a level where they're like, oh, this problem is so big, they would be willing to spend $100,000 a year on it. So now we know kind of our price ceiling, and we can charge somewhere below that, and they'll get a ton of value. We can charge a lot more than we thought we could originally, and still make a ton of money, and kind of everybody's happy. So these are 4 great reasons why customer interviews are so important and why you should do them. So this is Zach Cohn from LIFFFT, signing off until next time.